Okay. Hopefully this works. If you're watching this video, this is a posted live stream, just so you are aware. We go live every morning, and on Sundays we go live a little later near the afternoon. God bless all of you guys, and just so you know, this live stream might just shut down if I lose power. We're in the middle of the ice storm. I'm assuming a lot of other people are also in an ice storm as you're watching this. I think there's like 200 million Americans affected by the snow and rain and the bad weather. So I did my best to put a show together. There is a lot going on surrounding Minneapolis, St. Paul, Minnesota. A lot. So what I did was I tried to figure out what direction to take this show in, what information to give you guys. I am just going to assume every single one of you have already seen the video clip. You've seen all the different angles. We're not going to do that because that's already been played a million different times on the internet. And again, if you guys are joining the live stream, do me a massive favor and make sure to please like the stream. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for all the members and everybody. Make sure to please like the stream and share it so everybody can see what's going on. So what I did was I did my best to find the reactions to everything. There's a lot of back and forth. And on Sundays, typically that's when you get the high-profile people appearing on television. So we're going to see Kash Patel. We're going to see a Chief Bovino. Last night, Governor Tim Walz and the mayor of Minneapolis, they held their own separate press conferences. So we're going to go through a ton of reactions, get a good cross here of left-leaning side, right-leaning side, and bring it all together. So yeah, God bless you guys. I know it's cold, but I'm going to do my best. Again, this live stream might shut down out of nowhere, might lose power. We'll see. So we're going to start with Kash Patel, and I think you guys know what the main narrative battle really is. This person had a firearm, the man who was shot, verified, but the main dividing factor is, did he pull it out? He legally had that firearm, but did he pull it out in the middle of the interaction? The Trump administration is arguing, look, that's not the point. The point is he rolled up on us and it became confrontational, and he did have the firearm. On the flip side, you're hearing that doesn't matter. He legally had the firearm. What does that have to do with the clashing and stuff like that? So we're going to dig into it. I think you guys know at baseline, that is like the main dividing factor right now of talking points. In fact, even on X, formerly known as Twitter, I will pull that up later. Even on X, they are community noting some of the talking points from Homeland Security. And that is, community noting is like a fact checking. And maybe we'll pull that up later. I have that, but we have so many clips to get through. Let's start with this. Kash Patel going on Fox to talk about this recent event. And again, this is not going to be a one-sided show. We're going to get all the different sides here. Let's start with this, though.
Officials in this country without any repercussions. You do not get to do that in Minnesota, LA, or anywhere else. And the interagency is leading the charge out there. We've already arrested with the interagency those that violated the FACE Act and impeded a peaceful prayer in church. We've already just last night arrested 4 more individuals involved in the damage of government property that we saw the videos of online. We've arrested other individuals who've made threats to law enforcement online. So we are not messing around. It doesn't have to be in person. If you threaten law enforcement officials or civilians, we are going to come find you. And as for this latest shooting, yes, DHS and HSI are the lead, and the FBI is processing the physical evidence. So we're in possession of the firearm, which is going to go to our laboratory. But as Secretary Noem said, no one who wants to be peaceful shows up at a protest with a firearm that is loaded with 2 full magazines.
And this right here, again, I think you guys know this. This right here is the dividing factor. The Trump administration, they're very solid on their talking points. Everybody is on board pretty much with this defense. You guys can let me know how you feel about that. And again, I will show you guys the opposite perspective. We're seeing a lot of, it doesn't matter if that's the case. It was Border Patrol who engaged. They started to scuffle. And then you guys saw the video. Again, just trying to give you guys at baseline what is being said back and forth.
That is not a peaceful protest, and you do not get to touch law enforcement. You do that anywhere, this FBI is going to be leading the charge to arrest those.
But how was he threatening Border Patrol? You've collected the evidence, you said, right? You have the handgun in your possession?
That's right.
And how was he using that handgun in terms of threatening Border Patrol? What was the threat? He had his camera, right? He was filming it.
That's something that I will let the DHS and the prosecutors, because they are the ones investigating that case. I don't want to stylize that evidence, but I trust the men and women on the ground who are trained professionals to only use it when it's absolutely necessary. And I trust Secretary Noem's leadership and DHS and HSI to do the right thing, as they've always done in the.
Yeah, okay, so again, let me know what you feel about that. I just saw Daniel Cap said a federal officer got his finger bitten off. That is true. I cannot show you guys that. That's on the Homeland Security X page. There is a lot going on. I really had to try and figure out what direction we're going to take this in. I figured what you guys would want to see is the back and forth, the responses. But yes, I do have some images of protesters who were arrested and some of the things they were arrested for. But yeah, Homeland Security did actually post and show that a federal agent's finger was literally bitten off. And I know, like, sometimes we say that metaphorically, like, oh, he bit my finger, he tried to bite it off. Like, no, it was actually bit off, the tip of it. And I can't show you that, but it is on the Homeland Security X page. So this is big news too. I figured I'd throw this in there because we will be paying attention to this. This is from the House Homeland GOP, so keep that in mind. Chairman Representative Garbarino has formally requested testimony from ICE, CBP, and USCIS leaders at a full committee hearing. Congress has an important responsibility to ensure the safety of law enforcement and the people they serve and protect. Now, Mr. Bill from Fox News noted, committee Democrats will be licking their chops at the opportunity to question them under oath. So that's going to be quite a fiery back and forth. So if you guys haven't already, make sure to please subscribe to my channel. We will probably be watching that live. I think that's going to be a heated back and forth. So I just wanted to throw that in there. That's going to be happening. All right, let's continue with the back and forth.
That city.
You're saying he wasn't protesting peacefully, and yet the video before shows him holding up a cell phone, directing traffic. The video after shows him being pummeled by these law enforcement. Everyone has now seen this video across the country with this man holding up a cell phone. And part of the outrage that people are expressing is that they feel as though the federal government is asking them to believe something that they don't see with their own two eyes. Is that what the administration is asking of the American people, to believe that he was violent, when the video, based on what everyone has seen so far, does not show that?
Well, first of all, I did not say he was violent. I said he was not protesting peacefully. And you just described what every American has seen, which is video shortly ahead of the incident, where he was screaming in the face of ICE. He had a phone up right to the right into ICE's face. You tell me, is that protesting peacefully? I mean,
again, you guys can leave your comments down below how you feel about this. The one thing I'm a little disappointed in all of the mainstream media, and again, I keep saying this over and over, a lot of Americans are starting to catch up with what's going on. You would be surprised to find out, to a lot of Americans, this might be the first time you're tuning into Minneapolis, and this is the first experience you're getting as far as somebody just got shot. Obviously, everybody has heard about Renee, but now really looking into it. In context, when you listen to the video and see what's going on, there are protesters there, there's whistles going on, and I think the mainstream media needs to really start to contextualize what's happening here. This is not the first instance Border Patrol and ICE have had to deal with a clash or engagement. So when you think about the context of what's going on, Homeland is at a very high alert status as far as pushback against protesters. So I think we also need to keep that in mind, as far as it seems like everybody is on edge from the protesters' perspective, from Homeland Security's perspective, and ultimately it's leading to a lot of confrontations.
we all see the same thing. I mean, you shouldn't try to gaslight the administration about what happened. That was not a peaceful protest. And yes, what happened afterwards is tragic. It is horrible. It is heartbreaking. But make no mistake about it, that would have never happened. That would have never happened. And it doesn't happen in cities around this country every single day. But for the complete failure by the mayor and by the governor to do anything to protect their citizens. They park their officers blocks and blocks away while they just let ICE go, and they let citizens just come and do whatever they want to try to torment and to try to agitate officers doing their job.
It should be noted, and again, we will be getting to more left-leaning talking points, it should be noted you're going to be hearing this a lot more than ever. A lot more than ever. The Trump administration has already always said we want more cooperation with the mayor, with the governor, Minnesota. Now, more than ever, you're hearing, where are they? They should have been there to begin with. So be prepared for that as well. And as you can see, I have 5 billion tabs. All right. Before we get to Chief Bovino, let's get to the chief of police, his perspective. And again, we also have a press conference from the mayor of Minneapolis and Governor Tim Walz. We'll get to that. Again, we'll sort of just we'll dictate this as we go. And disclaimer, I might lose power. So if this shuts off, that's what it is.
Heard from federal officials. From what you have seen in the public space and heard from federal officials, is there any evidence that you know of that Preddy was assaulting the federal officers as the Border Patrol chief claims?
Well, I've seen the videos just as thousands of people around the country have, and the videos speak for themselves. I think it's deeply concerning, the things that are being said. This is an individual that was a city resident. It appears that he was present, exercising his First Amendment rights to record law enforcement activity, and also exercising his Second Amendment rights to lawfully be armed in a public space in the city. So I think very obviously there are serious questions that are being raised. And I think the greater issue is, even if there is an investigation that ultimately proves that at the time of the shooting it was legally justified, I don't think that even matters at this point, because there is so much outrage and concern around.
Okay, so you heard that. I mean, I told you we were gonna go to the opposite ends of what your algorithms might see or show you. He is saying it doesn't matter. Let me replay that for you so you can hear the wording. What you're going to hear a lot as I was going through the clips, a lot of times you're going to hear from a Chief Bovino. He said that yesterday during the press conference. You just heard from Kash Patel. I'm going to let the investigators decide and we'll figure it out. On the flip side, you already have it doesn't really matter, another person was shot, and he also had a firearm legally. Again, I told you, that is a dividing factor. Let me replay that real quick. Listen.
Issue is, even if there is an investigation that ultimately proves that at the time of the shooting it was legally justified, I don't think that even matters at this point.
So again, you heard that. Even if it was justified, I don't think it matters. Again, it's my job to show you all the different talking points, and you just heard that from the police chief. So you can let me know how you feel about that. Let us continue.
Because there is so much outrage and concern around what is happening in the city.
What do you mean it doesn't matter at this point? You mean the situation on the ground is already, the impression is left?
People have had enough. This is the third shooting now in less than 3 weeks. The Minneapolis Police Department went the entire year last year recovering about 900 guns from the street, arresting hundreds and hundreds of violent offenders, and we didn't shoot anyone. And now this is the second American citizen that's been killed. It's the third shooting within 3 weeks.
Now, just to be fair to you guys and for your benefit, and you guys can go and fact check me on this, I've already said this before, Minneapolis has not, but right before the end of the year, going into January, the St. Paul Police Department did have to use their firearm to protect themselves. And so again, you guys can go fact check me. You can go look into that, jot it down in your notes. We hear this talking point a lot from Minneapolis. We never had to use our firearm to defend ourselves. The St. Paul Police Department did just next door.
Weeks, people have been speaking out, saying that this was going to happen again. And I think everyone is kind of waiting for folks on both sides to come together and just figure this thing out. This is not sustainable. This police department has only 600 police officers. We are stretched incredibly thin. This is taking an enormous toll trying to manage all of this chaos on top of having to be the police department for a major city.
Okay, so that is a recent interview from the chief of police, and you did hear a little bit of pushback from the interviewer saying, what do you mean by it doesn't matter, even if it was lawful? And again, ultimately, that's going to be up to you guys to decide how you feel about that. Now, Chief Bovino, These are all recent interviews. Again, on Sundays, everybody goes on television, does these interviews. It should be noted, as I'm making this video, Border Patrol and federal elements, they are currently on the ground. And they're performing operations, and there are protesters who are appearing as well. So keep that in mind as we are going through this. Thank you guys for the $5 donations. I really appreciate your monetary support. Thank you so much. Catherine says they aren't even holding criminals and just letting them out after they get arrested. He is walking a very thin line, if you ask me, says Catherine. Yeah, and the detainer back and forth is huge, very big. And thank you for becoming a member. We'll get to that later in the show.
It's pretty evident to me.
I want to ask you about your agents. You said that this was a highly trained agent who had been serving on Border Patrol for 8 years. What was he trained for? Because these are your Border Patrol agents, and they're now in the interior of the country, in American cities. Was he trained in urban policing?
Yes, all of our Border Patrol agents are trained in all for all types of environments, including urban policing. This particular Border Patrol agent had 8 years with some specific skill sets there with both firearms and less lethal munitions. Also, let's take a look at the training and the environments that Border Patrol agents operate in. We operate in places like San Diego, California, Tucson, Arizona.
A little bit of a misleading statement and question. Again, even if you don't like Border Patrol and you hate ICE, you probably should know this. The reason why that was a little bit of a misleading question, and Chief Bovino knows what's going on here, the interior of the United States, when we say that, we have a 100-mile border, and the cities he's listing off are within the 100-mile border. I think he might say Chicago, but Chicago is in the 100-mile border, and these are urban environments that these agents have to train in. So keep that in mind when we're talking about, well, you're in the interior, are you actually trained for urban environments? A lot of our cities are in that 100-mile border where Border Patrol operates.
New Orleans, all those have Border Patrol sectors. Detroit, Michigan, we've got Border Patrol sectors in Buffalo. So this myth, and I saw this just last night on CNN, this myth that Border Patrol agents don't work in urban areas is just that. It's a myth. We're well adept at urban areas, conducting that Title VIII immigration enforcement wherever we go. It doesn't matter if it's a desert or an urban environment. We're very well adept at doing that.
And again, let's be honest, the reason why people are asking this question is because we don't typically hear, when you hear about Border Patrol, again, you see the videos, you see the clips, it's typically going to be on that southern border, maybe sometimes in the northern border. So when you see Border Patrol rolling around in Chicago or some of these coastal cities, we're not used to seeing them. They have always been there. You just haven't been seeing them. And one thing we need to point out as far as context is that the Trump administration is utilizing Border Patrol and ICE and other federal agents all working together for different sort of operations, cooperating together, because we see a lot of flexibility and leeway in how these agents can operate. I mean, we see ICE agents working in like riot control measures now. Let's continue. And again, thank you guys for your comments and support. I appreciate it.
You can see a screenshot of an agent in a green jacket approach Preddy, and then he appeared to take a gun away. When the agent took the gun away, which seems as though it was Preddy's gun, that happened before Preddy was shot. Why was an unarmed man shot multiple times by law enforcement, by your Border Patrol agents?
Dana, you don't know he was unarmed. I don't know he was unarmed. That's freeze frame adjudication of a crime scene via a photo. That's why we have investigators. That's why we have an investigation that is going to answer those questions. How many shots were fired? Who fired shots? Where was the guns? Where were the guns located? All those questions are going to be answered.
I think you can see the screen.
In the investigation. We're not going to adjudicate that here on TV in one freeze frame there.
Okay. It's not.
And just so you guys are aware, I don't know if I have the clip, but Chief Bovino did verify those agents, they are still working, by the way. And again, like I told you before, that is going to be the main back and forth. And I see some of you guys saying, well, he was armed, but now she's saying he was unarmed. Again, these are the talking points going back and forth.
freeze frame, we're showing a video of one of your agents taking the gun away, and that happened before Preddy was shot.
We don't know that agent was taking any gun away. That could have been the agents, because we don't know that. The facts are going to come to light.
So you're disputing the video, that that's what happened?
With an investigation. That's why we investigate.
Well, with respect, you say that's why we investigate, but you're also drawing other conclusions that sort of fly in the face of waiting for an investigation.
Okay. Let us continue. Again, if you guys are just joining, we're going to be looking at all the different reactions back and forth so you guys can get an idea of what's going on here. Oh, yeah, I do have the clip. So Chief Bovino does confirm that these agents are still working.
It's pretty evident to me.
I want to ask you about your agents. You said that this was a highly trained agent who had been serving on Border Patrol for 8 years. Oh. What was he trained for? Because these are your Border Patrol agents, and they're now in the interior of the country, in American cities. Was he trained in...
Okay, sorry, we already heard that clip. Yeah, again, it is verified they are working. We'll get to Tim Burchett after. Let me try to get you guys a... Yeah, let's see this real quick. Okay, so this is going to be the Minnesota Lieutenant Governor. Here's what she had to say. Hopefully her volume is good.
I just left the site where Alex Preddy was killed this morning by ICE agents to show my respects and my deepest condolences to his family and friends and everybody who loved him and knew him. And I am holding on to the hope that I experienced yesterday by walking with 50,000 people through frigid cold temperatures saying ICE out of Minnesota, and was inspired by the rallies that were held all across this country demanding that ICE leave Minnesota and all of our communities. They are doing nothing but wreaking terror and chaos and havoc. And to all those folks who showed up yesterday across the country, to everyone who is reaching out to know how you can help Minnesotans, the answer is you can call your senator today and say, do not vote to give one more penny to ICE.
Okay, so this is also happening right now, is the political talking points surrounding this event, and like we saw with the Renee situation. Right now we have that vote on the Senate side of things as to whether or not to fund Homeland Security or to reform Homeland Security. So you're going to be hearing that a lot as well. I've even seen some screenshots and some reporting that there are people asking for donations for campaign funds. There's a lot of, what's the proper word? Politicalness going on around this, as many things happen around immigration enforcement. Thank you, Pseudo TPK, for the generous $2 donations. This looks pretty bad. We need the body cam footage. Chad Storms, thank you for the $5 donation. First time I've seen the Lieutenant Governor not wearing her hijab, says Chad Storms. Let's continue. Yeah, National Guard is inbound. That was requested by the mayor. Just to show you guys that raw clip on the ground, that's going to be from Cam Higbee on X. So National Guard is there. Now, I do have a clip from we also have an interview from Pam Bondi. We've been hearing a little bit more from Pam Bondi. Let me pull this clip up for you guys real fast from the police chief. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second here. It might be on the rapid response. Yeah, rapid response 47. I think you guys are going to want to see this. Where is that at? Yeah. All right, check this out.
Were you ever ordered to stand down? Have police been told not to protect ICE?
It is deeply disappointing to have anyone question and disparage the hard work of the men and women of the Minneapolis Police Department. There are 600 police officers that are left here. after the destruction of the city in 2020, and they are doing an incredible job. About a dozen of our cops have been injured responding to a lot of the chaos that has resulted on the streets. Our officers respond every time there's a threat to someone's life, to public safety, or destruction in the city. And it doesn't matter whether it's because ICE is there or someone from the community is there. We are doing everything that we can to manage this chaos, but there's only 600 cops here, and there's thousands of immigration agents.
Okay, just wanted to show you that other response that he had. Again, I think there's a little bit of confusion, and we do see this a lot with sanctuary cities. On one hand, and a lot of people seem to be okay with this. We heard it from the mayor. We heard it from the chief of police. They do not cooperate with ICE when it comes to deportation operations. But as you guys heard, the question was, what about when they get attacked? Will you help them? Well, that was his response. And when it gets into that gray area, it really happens to be when ICE is in the middle of a deportation operation. Something might go down, like an attack or a shooting. Then do they help? That was the response. Okay, so a lot of people have actually been arrested due to pushback. According to Homeland Security, on January 24th, our officers were swarmed and attacked by these violent agitators. The courageous men and women of ICE were subject to the following attacks: hurling and kicking, violent physical assaults, deliberate ramming and assaults of vehicles, issuing explicit threats, aggressively obstructing, attempted assaults. And so, yeah, that's what Homeland Security has released. I might have an image here somewhere. Homeland Security also posted an image where somebody apparently took, yeah, this right here. This is from Homeland Security. Again, these are accusations from Homeland. During the riots, and we actually saw this live, by the way, yesterday in my live stream. I don't know if you guys were here for that, but we did see this. On the ground, the reporters were like, yeah, these are on the ground right now. During the riots, one individual was apprehended for obstructing law enforcement personnel and utilizing caltrops to deflate the tires of law enforcement vehicles. Upon apprehension, the subject was found in possession of a bag containing several similar devices. The subject was arrested. Again, this is all posted on Homeland Security if you guys want to see what's going on there. And then the other really big viral post, I can't show you guys, apparently a finger was bitten off, like literally the tip of a finger. All right, let's continue. This is going to be from Senator Van Hollen. Here's what he had to say, and then we will get to what Pam Bondi had to say and others. I want to give you guys really, the back and forth.
Stephen Miller has gone so far as to label the victim today as an alleged domestic terrorist. What do you make of that kind of language and using that to describe the man who was killed today by federal agents?
This has become part of the disgusting White House cover-up of these killings. They said the same thing about Renee Good. They really think the American people are stupid. I mean, we can all see the videotapes. We saw the videotapes with Renee Good. We've seen the videotape today with Alex Preddy. It is clear that Stephen Miller and this White House are engaged in a cover-up, and it's criminal.
And it should be noted, just so you guys are aware, Stephen Miller was actually community noted on X. I think Stephen Miller was community noted for pointing out there was no firearm initially pulled out. So just so you guys are aware, even on X, the platform owned by Elon Musk, even on X, they were community noting, fact-checking Stephen Miller.
To try to cover up a killing like this. Look, the reality is that the real domestic terrorists, they're in the White House right now. They're people like Stephen Miller. They're people like Donald Trump. They're the ones who are terrorizing these communities, having nothing to do with public safety. You know, they said that they were going to go after the worst of the worst. We see them now apprehending kids. We see them shooting these law-abiding citizens. This is totally out of control. And I think that the country and people across the political spectrum are looking at what they're seeing on the videotape and listening to the lies coming out of the White House, and that they're agreeing with those of us who say we cannot continue to provide one dime to this lawless Trump operation.
Okay, so again, I'm really curious to see how that vote is going to turn out as far as the funding on the senator side and the back and forth. This is obviously going to be a topic of concern, without a doubt, when talking about wanting reform. We saw that already. And let's go here. Give me 1 second.
This has been hard to watch for everyone involved. Let me just get your initial thoughts of what's happened here in Minneapolis in the last couple of hours.
Well, why this has happened in Minneapolis is because you have a mayor, you have a governor who has declared Minneapolis a sanctuary city, saying, bring your worst of the worst to Minneapolis. You're invited here. We will protect you. Aisha, these are the arrests.
And again, I do want to point out, we have not heard from Pam Bondi in quite a while. Recently, within like the last few days with the church protesters and other protests, Pam Bondi seems to like be back in the media. She used to really be in the media, but now it looks like she's back. So again, even if you don't agree with her, or you do like her, don't like her, let's see what she has to say.
These are just the arrests that ICE has been making. And that's why Donald Trump has ICE in Minneapolis to protect the citizens. Sodomy of a boy, strong arm robbery. Sexual assault, sodomy of a girl under the age of 16. Rape, 12-year-old girl. Strong arm, rape, ag assault. Convicted rape, child fondling. Wow. These are all the illegals that Joe Biden was letting into our country. And they were all going to Minneapolis because the mayor, the governor, the AG, they were protecting them. And Donald Trump is going to protect the citizens of our country. I was there all week, as you saw. I was in Minneapolis, and we are going to protect our churches. We are going to protect our great men and women in law enforcement who were out there doing their jobs today. They were out there arresting a violent offender, and then this guy comes up. I can't talk about more of the details. Chief Bovino talked about that. It's now all pending, but we will support the men and women in law enforcement, and we will support the good citizens of Minnesota if the governor and that mayor aren't going to do it.
Some of the people that you arrested, like you mentioned.
And I have noticed when it comes to going beyond that, talking about either the firearm or what led up to that, you're noticing it is across the board from Kash Patel, Chief Bovino, now Pam Bondi. Again, it looks like they're really waiting for either body cam footage or audio, but everybody really seems to go up to that one initial point to where there was the engagement. Again, ultimately, it's going to be up to you guys how you decide, how you feel about it. I'm just trying to show you guys all the different talking points.
Mentioned in the last couple of days, you feel it was incredibly organized.
Yes.
What can you tell us more about what we're seeing on the ground there? I mean, our Steve Harrigan, who's covered many wars, said that in his own observations, it feels incredibly organized. These people know each other. They know where to go. What do you know about this?
That's right. And I can tell you what I observed when I was there. It's extremely organized. The signs they have are all matching. They're well written. And look at what's happening today. How did these people go out and get gas masks, these protesters? Would you know how to walk out on the street and buy a gas mask right now? Yeah, think about that.
No.
Right. All of these protesters out there right now have gas masks on, matching, very expensive, by the way, gas mask. It's organized. They're out there to cause problems, and they're out there to hinder the great men and women in law enforcement, and we are not going to have it in Minneapolis or anywhere else in this country.
Okay, so just figured you'd want to hear what Pam Bondi had to say. Thank you for the $2 donation from Testing2741. Testing says, Pam Bondi is incapable of sincerity. Replace her. That is what Testing has to say. Thank you for your generosity. We'll get to some of that in a second. We already talked about this yesterday, but one of the initial statements we saw right off the bat, within like hours of the event, was going to be from Representative Omar. Just to read it real quick, just this first part. This appears to be an execution by immigration enforcement. I am absolutely heartbroken, horrified, and appalled that federal agents murdered another member of our community. It is beyond shameful. These federal agents are targeting our residents instead of protecting them. So if you guys didn't see that, that is what Representative Omar said. Of course, representing Minnesota. Now, I found this interesting. Here is Chris Cuomo. We haven't heard from him on this.
Did my post on the latest shooting in Minneapolis. I can't believe I just said that, the latest shooting, because obviously we understand a lot better now. There are videos that you can watch of this latest shooting involving Mr. Preddy, ICE, and another U.S. citizen, a nurse this time. And look, they're dueling narratives. Investigate, get the facts, and do what justice demands. But the video accounts show a very troubling episode that beg for accountability and de-escalation. And it has to start with the government. Okay, we have to start at the top. These are the people who are charged with knowing how and insisting on de-escalation. The hot talk, the constant threats, the constant justification, it has to stop. We can't have government agents shooting and killing American citizens. This has to stop. If you're going to send the VP to Minneapolis, meet with the mayor, meet with the governor. Give this a chance to cool down.
Okay, so again, even if you don't agree with it, just trying to show you guys everything here. Thank you for the $5 donation from Super Romer. I can't see your full name. Thank you for that. They protect the criminals and tell the people that ICE is the bad guys. Remove Waltz and Frey. Thank you for the $5 donation. And that is his comment there. Real quick
situation.
Let's get to this. Here is the second press conference. We already had one press conference. We'll get a little bit to what the mayor had to say as far as his updated messaging.
On the safety plans and precautions that we're going to be taking for this evening. The city of Minneapolis is filing a declaration after today's shooting to encourage the judge to rule on a temporary restraining order on Monday that would grant us immediate relief and would help stop this operation that has been so harmful to the city of Minneapolis. The state of Minnesota has resulted in multiple shootings and tragic deaths. I have formally requested assistance from the National Guard to support the limited number of officers that we have in the Minneapolis Police Department. We have around 600 officers in total. Days off have been canceled. Our incredible Minneapolis police officers have been working tirelessly to do their day-to-day work, and simultaneously they are put in the middle of these chaotic situations. We will not be able to do this on our own, and so we are getting assistance from both.
Okay, so you guys heard that. The mayor, we've already seen that the National Guard has been activated. Now, everybody's still asking, what about the Insurrection Act? Will that happen? That is still looming. There are soldiers on standby still up in Alaska and over in Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
Mutual aid jurisdictions, as well as the request to the governor for the National Guard, and we're appreciative of the assistance. Our community is tired. Our officers are tired. Our businesses are tired. And this additional support is necessary. And again, the chaos that we are seeing is caused directly by ICE, Border Control, and this federal administration.
I just got some breaking news for you guys, just so you are aware, and this is the benefit of going live. We do these updates in real time, so make sure to please turn on your notifications, make sure to please subscribe. We are getting information that Minnesota's BCA crime scene team is on site at the Alex Preddy shooting location in Minneapolis as the investigation unfolds. So they are currently on the scene, they're taking pictures, they're asking questions. Now, the real question is there cooperation between the federal government and the BCA crime team, sorry.
Our top priority is keeping our neighbors and businesses safe, and the additional support will help us do that. Our community service officers are helping to deliver food to families that are in need. Community members are out there peacefully protesting, making sure that their voices are heard. They're escorting workers to their jobs. They're taking care of daycares. It has been extraordinary how people around our city have stepped up during this difficult time, and there is an incredible group of leaders, senators and members of Congress that are here with me to deliver a powerful message in just a couple of minutes.
Okay, so that is really the big update right there. We're going to figure out on Monday what happens with that as far as the quote-unquote relief is what the mayor is wanting as far as judicial action. That's the wording he's using. And real quick, thank you for the generous $5 from Amazing Disgrace. The local government incited unrest to distract from the fraud investigation and to make it look like retaliation. And that is from Amazing Disgrace. Let me pull this up for you guys real quick. Kristi Noem is currently circulating right now as far as her interview.
One officer had his finger bitten clean off by an agitator yesterday. There are some pretty troubling photos of that online if anybody wants to look. Have you heard from any of the Democratic leadership in Minnesota about that? Tim Walz, Jacob Frey?
No, they haven't expressed any concern for injuries to our officers, and that's been going on for weeks. These are not just agitators anymore, they're violent protests. In fact, the state and the city of Minneapolis abandoned this area in downtown Minneapolis because they couldn't control the situation by the amount of people that have come in just trying to disrupt and impede law enforcement operations. And, you know, frankly, this didn't turn violent until we uncovered the fraud in Minneapolis. We were there, ICE and CBP have been there and operating for years in Minneapolis. We saw the violence start to happen when the fraud became uncovered of the billions of dollars that was stolen from American taxpayers under the leadership of Governor Walz.
Okay, so let me know what you guys feel about that. Again, we often hear from Homeland Security and from the governor, from the mayor, that there is sometimes communication. We never know what that communication is, but according to Kristi Noem, there has been no talk about the agent who got his finger bitten off. Thank you for the $10 donation from Trey. When you're exercising your Second Amendment right, when approached by federal agents, it's your duty to notify agents that you're armed. It's crazy no one has said this. That is from Trey. Thank you so much for the donation. Again, Kristi Noem right now is getting a lot of backlash as far as more left-leaning political figures and members of Congress as far as not properly telling people what happened as far as the firearm situation. As you guys are hearing in a lot of the talking points, there was no firearm. It was a camera. Then you just heard from Chief Bovino not too long ago. Well, you don't actually know that.
Part of this.
And the initial release from Homeland Security was, of course, there was a firearm, but the main division right now was the brandishing of it. That is the back and forth.
Part of this investigation will be hearing from those agents and officers and people on the ground. But we do know that he came to that scene and impeded a law enforcement operation, which is against federal law. It's a felony. When he did that, interacting with those agents, when they tried to get him to disengage, he became aggressive and resisted them throughout that process. These officers used their training, followed their protocols, and were in fear of their lives and the people around them. And that's how this tragedy unfolded, and we hope we never see it again. It grieves me to think about what his family is going through, but it also grieves me what's happening to these law enforcement officers every day out on the streets with the violence that they face.
Okay. So again, that is a very recent interview from Kristi Noem. Thank you for the $5 donations from Janin. And yeah, I did see Cam Higby's reporting on that. I am still waiting on mainstream media sources and some other sources to start talking about what Cam Higby has uncovered. If you guys are unaware, Cam Higby has found these groups in which they are communicating back and forth, allegedly, to go on the ground and look for who's on the ground as far as ICE agents. Thank you, Christopher, for the $5 donation. Thank you, T-SPLY, my roommate, Whitney, Kat, Blueberry, and I have been watching you every day for almost a year now. Keep up your excellent work, and shout out to you, Christopher, and hi to your roommates. Hope you guys are doing well. And Richard just left a $20 donation and said nothing. Very ominous. I never know what he had to say. Thank you guys for your support. Let us continue. Now, Governor Tim Walz had his own press conference. Not the best audio. Somebody decided to crank up the audio midway through the press conference.
To help us.
Right here.
Well, I spoke twice this morning shortly after I received the call of this shooting. I spoke with the President's Chief of Staff, and first request was to get her people out of there, to get these federal agents out of there. They were going to cause more chaos. And second call is, with no uncertain terms, that we will investigate this. We will not.
And again, as I am doing this live stream, making the video, they are on the ground. It is not clear what the cooperation is, but they are on the ground doing their own investigation. So keep that in mind.
Be stonewalled. What we've already seen, and you saw it this morning, before any investigation is done, you have the most powerful people in the federal government spinning stories and putting up pictures, and unrelated people who we don't know anything about, and a picture of a firearm to try and spin a narrative. And I ask Americans, this will end when enough Americans say this will end. Do I have any confidence Donald Trump will do the right thing? No, I don't have a lot of confidence Donald Trump will do the right thing. I do have a lot of confidence that the majority of the American people will do the right thing. And I think there cannot be very many people across this country looking right now, after all the reporting that's been done, after everything that's been said, under the pretense that they are here about immigration reform, and quit referring to these people as law enforcement. They are not law enforcement. We have.
So that right there is circulating a lot as far as the term of law enforcement. Governor Tim Walz is claiming they are not law enforcement. I think he's specifically talking about ICE agents. I don't know if he's talking about FBI or the other agencies, but I think in context, I think he's talking about ICE specifically. FLHRCI $2 donation says, where do I apply for a Learning Center franchise? And that is his comment.
They are not law enforcement. We have law enforcement who do an incredible job. And to listen to Greg Bovino denigrate the work of our people who are out there cleaning up their mess, no, I don't have a lot of confidence that he himself will do it. But here's what I do have confidence in. There's a whole lot of Republicans, for whatever reason, cannot find their spine. But they might find the ability to know that they're not going to win another election as long as they live, unless they stand up for what's right and stand up for the rule of law and stand up for human decency. And that's the moment.
So then, just to follow up, because then if that is not the case, what are the people of Minnesota supposed to do who are in the middle right now? Because if they do Stonewall and you're trying to investigate, is that forcing them
no, it's
on
a good
force?
question. And look, I speaking to the people of Minnesota right now, I hear that scream from you, and I'll continue to plead and ask you for peace. And I know the answer is, you ask us for peace and we give it, and we get shot in the face on the streets coming out of a donut shop. We cannot give them what they want. I don't know how to say this in so many terms, to watch the madness that we've witnessed over this last week coming out of the White House and what it's doing here. My confidence is, and I say it to Minnesotans, as I've said, exercise your First Amendment rights, speak out, bear witness and document legally. But I understand the risk in that. And I understand the courage that it takes to have people out there doing this. Thank God we have video. Because according to DHS, these 7 heroic guys took an onslaught of a battalion against them or something. It's nonsense, people. It is nonsense, and it's lies. So my confidence is this, Minnesotans. You know who you are, and you demonstrate it every single day, and we damn sure know who these people are. The American public knows, and this needs to be the event that says enough.
All right. So, yeah, that is a second press conference from the governor. Let me know what you guys think about that. We saw Senator Chris Van Hollen.
That we are.
Here's the mayor.
The chaos that we are seeing is caused directly by.
Thank you for the very generous $50 donation. Romans 8:18, Jude 24:25. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that. And God bless you. And God bless everybody else who's dealing with this ice storm. That's going to be from Randy Wheel. I can't see your full name. But thank you so much for your generosity.
ICE.
And please pray for peace, everybody, for real.
Border control and this federal administration.
2 37-year-old Minnesotans are now dead. A poet and a nurse. For what?
We are outraged
The world is watching yet again, and we are once again now being asked to deny what we saw with our own eyes.
We understand that the pressure has been building for weeks.
The city has been under siege. It's not just the cities. It's not just Minneapolis and St. Paul. It is the suburbs where kids have been lured in and abducted, rural areas. This has gone way beyond. We call on our Republican colleagues to stand with us.
And you need to know, America, that if it can happen here, it can happen in your community too.
Okay. Yeah, again, obviously you guys can see where the Minnesota leadership and Minneapolis leaders, they are what their side is of this. Alejandro, 1836, thank you for the very generous $5. I voted for deportations. This case looks messy. Pretty's involvement with the anti-ICE group is relevant in my opinion. These people celebrated Babit's death. That is what Alejandro said. Did you say relevant or irrelevant? My apologies. I don't want to misquote what you just said. Is relevant is what you said. Okay.
Minneapolis cares.
To de-escalate this situation. Donald Trump, I call on you once again. Remove this force from Minnesota. They are sowing chaos and violence. We've seen deadly violence from federal agents again and again and again. Minnesotans are witnessing, and we're creating a log of evidence for the future prosecution of ICE agents and officials responsible for this.
Okay, I am very curious what you guys have to say. This is not the first time we've heard this, but I will say this is, I think, the first time we're hearing it very direct and an official statement from the governor here. I'm going to replay that for you guys, and we have actually heard this pretty much same exact statement over in Illinois, what the governor is doing. They're not hiding it. They made it very clear. We are creating a future log. So listen to that again.
Seen deadly violence from federal agents again and again and again. Minnesotans are witnessing, and we're creating a log of evidence for the future prosecution of ICE agents and officials responsible for this.
Now, I have no idea what the formality of that is. I don't know if that is tax funded, if that's an organization. I have no idea. I don't know the details of that. I can try and do some research, but you're hearing it straight from the governor. That is what's currently happening. And thank you, Yankees 2026, for the $5 donation. What does T-SPLY mean? T-SPLY, when I started this, was actually a clothing brand. Back in 2018, it stood for The Supply. And I've always made videos and done YouTube stuff. So then I just transitioned from that to making content. So it stands for The Supply.
They're helping their neighbors. They're walking their kids to school. They're feeding families. I salute their courage and their restraint. And I call on all Americans to see the decency that this state is exhibiting and the horrific cruelty, unprofessional, absolute abomination that is passing for what these ICE agents are doing on our streets. After all the reporting that's been done, after everything that's been said under the pretense that they are here about immigration reform, and quit referring to these people as law enforcement. They are not law enforcement. We have law enforcement.
Okay, so we already heard that part. Again, so the two biggest takeaways from that press conference was, of course, they're not law enforcement. And then number two, we are creating this log, this record for possible prosecutions in the future. Again, I really want to do some research into how that works, if that is state funded. I don't know the legality of that. But as you guys know, you can get into some hot water, of course, or into a gray area as far as what that's all about. Now, this was last night.
Protesters have joined from a vigil they were holding, and you can see these young people in the shiny vests. They've actually stopped traffic. They're pretty well organized. They've got walkie-talkies, and they replace each other. But basically, they've stopped traffic. So you can see this is expanding now from just one block where the shooting took place. Now it's moving out into other blocks. We were going to pull out of our car.
Now, this is being reported as an autonomous zone. I don't know how factually accurate that is, but autonomous zone was being thrown out there as far as like a zone that's been barricaded off. I will, again, do some more research to figure out what this is all about. But again, this was the reporting on the ground last night.
And they said, oh, no, you can't go. So you have people in shiny vests, really directing traffic, controlling the streets, saying who can go where. No, you can't drive away because I'm in a shiny vest, and I'm telling you can't. So we can see who's in control, not just of one street where the shooting took place, but now multiple streets, as several thousand people have joined this protest from a vigil.
And for anybody who watched my Portland coverage, this happened all the time. This was super, super, super common, where people in vests would just quite literally block off the road and would sometimes even have, what are those things called with the light where you wave people on? We saw that time and time again over in Portland in our reporting out there.
All right, let's pick up where we left off. You just heard the Homeland Security Secretary, Kristi Noem, talking about the shooting of 37-year-old ICU nurse Alex Preddy. And I want to bring back Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the Democratic Congresswoman.
Yeah, so here's what AOC has to say with this situation. We haven't heard from AOC in a minute. Here is what she has to say.
From New York. Congresswoman, I just want to read this part from Kristi Noem and get your reaction. This is how she describes the video that many Americans have seen with our own eyes from at least 2 or 3 different angles. This is what she said. First of all, she said multiple times that this individual, Alex Preddy, attacked the officers. But here is her first official statement. She said, an individual approached U.S. Border Patrol officers with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. The officers attempted to disarm this individual, but the armed suspect reacted violently.
And that is where, again, to talk about this pushback, this is where Community Notes was talking about, or pushing back on the X platform. Again, Community Notes is a fact-checking that X has. In the report from Homeland Security says he approached with a firearm. Now, the pushback is, well, when I watch the video, I am seeing the man has a camera. And then the Trump administration says, well, obviously, you know, as we watch the rest of the video, there was a firearm. But again, that is the main pushback, the divide. This talk about when we say there was a firearm, contextually speaking, how was it being used, I guess is a better way to say it. Again, ultimately, it's going to be up to you guys how you decide about that.
Fearing for his life and for the lives of his fellow officers around, an agent fired defensive shots. She also said that the suspect also had 2 magazines with ammunition in them that held dozens of rounds. He also had no ID. This looks like a situation where an individual arrived at the scene to inflict maximum damage. Your reaction?
Well, of course, what we're seeing is Secretary Noem and the Trump administration asking the American people to not believe their eyes, to not believe their ears, and to not believe what they are seeing right before them. They are instead asking you to give up your belief in your own senses and instead hand over your belief into anything that they say.
It should be noted in the CNN interview with Chief Bovino, I think her name is Dana Bash, am I saying that right? She did say he didn't have a firearm, by the way. So again, for those of you who are like a little confused, like how can you say the guy didn't have a firearm? We're being told on literally the news anchor said, well, he didn't. And then Chief Bovino responded, well, we'll see in the investigation.
I'm not asking the American people to believe me or her, but to believe themselves. Look at it for yourself. And what you will see is an innocent man being executed in the street. And it only goes further to show, she's stating herself, that ICE and those officers, those federal agents, prevented local law enforcement from securing the perimeter of that crime, from securing the perimeter of that for proper investigation. Moreover,
now again, the Trump response, you guys keep hearing, the Trump response is, well, we're actually going to blame the Minneapolis Police Department for not cooperating initially. And a lot of times in my videos, I call this a reactive response, and the Trump administration, they're not liking what's happening here, just to give their perspective, is that there is cooperation only until it escalates so bad, and then you have this reactive response to where now we're going to help, instead of a preemptive response to where they are there, they're either embedded or within the area of Homeland, and that could maybe prevent these types of situations. So that is a standpoint from the Trump administration. And again, I know it gets super confusing because we keep hearing back and forth. We are communicating. We want cooperation. We don't work with ICE, but we want to communicate. We want to cooperate. I'm just as confused sometimes as you guys, but I'm just trying to really make this as easy as possible for you to understand.
I want people to recognize and see the sequence of actions and claims that she is making in her statement. Because in directing this around Mayor Frey, in directing the language that she was using about Governor Walz, claiming that they are, quote unquote, inciting, that their resistance and difference from this administration, that their political difference in policy from this administration, she is equating disagreement with incitement. And in doing so, in using the specific language and rhetoric that she's using, she is laying the groundwork in alignment with what President Trump said and what White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt said, because she is talking about and laying the rhetorical groundwork for the Insurrection Act in terms of their language earlier this week. In fact, her contrast with the other states and municipalities that she talked about. She talked about Memphis, she talked about Florida, and she talked about Texas. 3 states with Republican governors. And she contrasts that to try to lay the groundwork against action against Democratic states and governors.
Now, AOC is leaving something out when it comes to Louisiana, and I guarantee a ton of you don't even know this. The lieutenant governor of Louisiana actually was not a fan of the deportation operations in Louisiana, specifically for business owners. To be accurate, he is okay with deportations, but not the way it was happening in Louisiana. So keep that in mind. You don't hear it often, but sometimes you do have higher profile Republicans in states that you wouldn't expect it, where there is pushback. Now, the governor's office in Louisiana, the actual governor, was not too happy with the lieutenant governor, but we haven't heard too much about that interaction. But keep in mind, there are sometimes high profile Republicans who are not too happy with some of these deportation operations. Thank you for the $2 donation from Apple vs. Gravity. Thank you for becoming a member from Jockey. I appreciate that a lot from all of you. Chad, thank you so much for your $5 donation. And thank you guys so much for your monetary support and your support for being here. Thank you guys so much.
And this isn't just a matter of political difference. This is talking about what Carolyn Leavitt said earlier this week, that they want to use the Insurrection Act specifically on states based on their political affiliation. This is a dangerous moment, and we have to debunk what the very clear lies that are before us. And that is the importance of fact-checking them in real time, because we cannot allow them to blur the lines to then claim legal justification for illegal actions. It is very important that we call a spade right now, that we see with clarity. She is claiming that...
Okay, so that is some of what AOC had to say. Figured you guys would want to see some of that possibly. And let's see what else we got for you guys. We have a ton. Yeah, the mayor already... This is what I'm a little confused about, because AOC is talking about the Insurrection Act. Meanwhile, you have the mayor who actually ordered the National Guard in Minneapolis. And, you know, a lot of the pushback is, why are you upset with the Insurrection Act, U.S. military, but why are we not talking about the U.S. military, the National Guard being deployed? Again, that's up to you guys to decide, but thank you, Bry Doherty. Sorry, I can't read your name. Law does not justify morality. That's what, thank you for that donation. Okay. Pull this up.
And we won't stand for it anymore. These law enforcement officers take an oath. They get up every single day and they go out to protect the public.
And remember, Governor Tim Walz said they are not law enforcement officers.
And we won't stand for it anymore. These law enforcement officers take an oath. They get up every single day and they go out to protect the public. Many of these individuals live in their communities. And this mayor and this governor have doxed them. They have allowed people to threaten them and their families and expose their identities in order to instill fear and violence. And that's not what America is about. We're going to continue to tell the truth about Minnesota, Minneapolis, what happened here, the theft over the last many years that these leaders have facilitated. And we're going to continue to do our work to get to the bottom of the investigations. And the one question you should be asking is, the mayor, the governor, and the attorney general have all confirmed that they have been subpoenaed to come in front of a criminal federal grand jury. So they are covering up and are being in a part of a system where they are going to be brought to justice for anything that they had to do with this investigation. They have.
All right, and I think that might be a good place to stop. I'm not going to lie, that was like really big news a week ago, right? All of them were subpoenaed, to include the mayor of St. Paul, who doesn't really get talked about too much. They've all been subpoenaed, so we're going to be hearing from them soon. We also heard at the top of the show that leaders of ICE and Border Patrol and other Homeland Security elements are also going to be requested to speak in front of government. So it's going to be quite a hectic next few weeks, that's for sure. And we will be broadcasting that and paying attention to that. So yeah, that is pretty much all of the relevant information on Sundays. You get a lot of back and forth as far as these political figures going on television and speaking their mind. So again, as I make this video, keep in mind there are federal operations being conducted right now. We are seeing some pushback and protesters, and we're seeing a lot of development as far as who is behind some of these groups. I'll dig into that in another show. And the Trump administration has made it clear they're looking for anybody who's in charge of these groups, who are getting the funding, organizing, possibly wanting to obstruct. So we'll see what happens with that. So I hope I was able to provide you guys some fair and balanced reporting. Of course, I always have my own biases, but I think in a day and age where we want some peace in this country, we want to hopefully come together. I think the best way we can possibly do that is bring all the sides together, whether or not you agree with it. So thank you guys so much for everything. Make sure to please subscribe. Make sure to turn on your notifications. And for those of you in the ice storm, God bless you guys. Prayers and hope for your safety. And please pray for peace, everybody. Collectively, it's a really good thing we can do that. All right? Especially on the Lord's Day. So God bless. Thank you guys for everything. And thank you for being here. And thank you guys for all your support. These live streams have only been successful because of you guys. So thank you so much for everything. Alrighty. We will see you all later. And if there is some massive breaking news, I will definitely be popping up on a live stream. All right. See you guys later. Bye-bye.